welcome to Full Colour Alchemy issue 4. I know it's been a long time between episodes and I apologise for that, but with life, Christmas, many other things getting in the way, I wanted to make sure that the next episode I did, I could sit down and do properly. I'm going to be changing the format of the show in two ways. One, I'm going to be scripting it less and freestyling it more to give it a more flowing feel. I'm also going to be changing it from an information show with reviews to a review with information. And I'm going to be using the comics that I review as examples of things that comics can do especially well as a medium. Comics can use a wide variety of styles, from colour to black and white, to single strips, to full-length graphic novels, a term I personally don't like because I find it very, very poncy, but it has to be used, unfortunately. And some of them use these methods very well, some of them use them very poorly. I'm going to be probably using examples of both, to be honest with you, when it comes to my reviews, because I will like to review some poorly made comics as well, because they're always fun to review because you can really sink your teeth in them and actually have a laugh about them. So the basic gist of this show is to review a comic and use it as an example of why comics are cool. Now, despite the fact that I'm going to try and keep these reviews spoiler-free, I will be giving you certain aspects of the comic that I feel are pertinent to a review. So, with that in mind, I'm not going to give away the story, obviously, and certainly nothing like the ending or anything like that. But I will be telling you aspects of the story that I feel are pertinent. So, if you want to go into something completely stone cold, just shut the review off, read it, come back to the review, see if you agree with me, leave your comments in the comments section, keep them clean. But despite that, I'm not going to spoil anything I review, hopefully. If I ever do, I will always give a warning. Sometimes it might not be avoidable. Avoidable. Problem with freestyling. Anyway, the first comic I'm going to be reviewing for the new format of the show is Seconds by Brian Lee O'Malley. Published by Self-Made Hero, it's 336 pages and full colour. Brian Lee O'Malley you may know from Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, a black and white 6-part comic that was released several years ago and made into a film, which was very good and nobody went to see, which is a shame. The synopsis for Seconds is on the inside dust cover and basically reads, Katie's got it pretty good. She's a talented young chef who runs a successful restaurant and has big plans to open an even better one. Then all at once, progress on the new location bogs down. Her charming ex-boyfriend pops up, her fling with another chef goes sour, and her best waitress gets badly hurt. And just like that, Katie's life goes from pretty good to not so much. What she needs is a second chance. Everybody deserves one, after all. But they don't come easy. Luckily for Kate, a mysterious girl appears in the middle of the night with simple instructions for a do-it-yourself do-over. Write your mistake. Ingest one mushroom. Go to sleep. Wake up anew. It's basically a folk tale with time travel in it, where the young lady in question tries to fix her mistake, and the whole thing snowballs from there, where she becomes addicted to fixing her mistakes. Every time she tries to fix one, something else gets progressively worse, so she tries to fix that, and she tries to fix that, and well, you can see where it's going. Personally, I actually prefer this to Scott Pilgrim, which I thought was brilliant, because Scott Pilgrim is a much broader story about a lot more characters, whereas Seconds is a lot more focused on Kate and her problems. I prefer the more personal, even cozy, especially at the beginning of the comic, atmosphere in Seconds than I do to the broader spread of chaos that he has to wield in Scott Pilgrim. One of the ways that Brian Lee O'Malley creates such a wonderful personal atmosphere in Seconds is through his use of colour. It's also another indication of how he's progressed in his comic craft, because all of Scott Pilgrim was in black and white. It has been reprinted in colour, but because it was originally in black and white, colour's no more than an aesthetic choice now. Whereas in Seconds, it actually contributes to the reader involvement with the comic. If you take page 5 of Seconds as a great first example of how Brian Lee O'Malley uses colour to draw the reader into the story, it actually shows what should be a very personal, private moment for anybody, and that's Kate waking up. The first panel is blue with a pair of blue-coloured eyes opening. And that's perfect because you don't know who's waking up. And when you think about it, when you wake up, you barely know who's waking up. It's a blue panel showing no facial features other than eyes opening. And eyes opening is a sure sign that something is coming on. Panel 2 pulls back from the eyes and fills up with warm colours, reds, oranges, and you see who's awake, and it's Kate, the protagonist of the story. And so there you have 2 panels that perfectly encapsulate the use of colour as a visual language in comics, used to convey something as simple as a person waking up. There are plenty of other examples in Seconds of where colour is used as a transitional tool to go from one state to another state or one emotion to another emotion. Quite often the scene will start with Kate in bed, feeling lonely and frustrated, and it'll all be in dark blues, deep greys, and black shading. And all of this increases the empathy that the reader has for Kate, as the colouring makes the reader feel cold and isolated and frustrated. And then as the young girl turns up in the comic, the supernatural element of the story, the panels become warm, full of oranges, terracottas, reds, yellows, brighter colours, and it's a nice, welcoming place for the reader to be, and you don't want to leave it, and you empathise again with Kate, as she doesn't want to leave these sort of moments of happiness and warmth in her life. It creates a bond between you and Kate, and colour is one of the ways that that bond is cemented. In the more realistic aspects of the story, where Kate's in her cafe or looking for new premises, Brian Lee O'Malley uses a much more earthy, urban, realistic colour palette to contrast between the nighttime and the mystical scenes. This has the effect of basically grounding the reader in a more realistic setting. And the use of different colour palettes in each of those 3 states gives the reader an immediate visual cue as to which state they're actually reading. The transition from one state to the other is basically communicated through colour. Later on in the comic, as the story progresses, elements from the mystical palette are actually used in some of the more grounded, realistic aspects of the story, and this creates an uncomfortable sense of dissonance in the reader. You are feeling what Kate's feeling because you are experiencing what Kate's experiencing within the story, and colour is used as part of the language that actually conveys that sense of uncomfortableness. I actually picked Seconds because of its use of colour, because Brian Lee O'Malley's first work, Lost at Sea, and his second work, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, were both in black and white, so this is his first outing really using colour as part of comics vocabulary, and using it to aid the story, not just as an aesthetic choice. And I personally think he does it fantastically. I will be looking at black and white comics in later reviews, as they have to use the vocabulary of comics in a different way to convey meaning. There is no right or wrong way to make comics, but not understanding that vocabulary of comics could well hamper the meaning that you're trying to get across in your story. But back to Seconds. Seconds is, frankly, a brilliant read. It's a good, solid, one-shot comic done in its 336 pages. It uses many different tools in the comic toolbox other than the colour. For example, it uses the masking effect, which manga uses to a great degree, which I'll be covering when I do manga. And I would recommend it, especially if, like I said, you like those sort of urban folk tales with a slight supernatural edge. There's no science fiction in this at all, so if you're ever put off by science fiction, don't panic, that's not in it. The time travel element of it is purely done in a very folk-like, mystical way, very simply, very elegantly, and it doesn't interfere with the pace of the story. It's available on Amazon in the UK. On the Kindle, it's £10.63. In hardback, it's £11.19. Excuse me for squinting. And it's not available in paperback yet. You can get it from comic stores and most good bookshops for £15.99. So that's issue 4, and thank you for being so patient if you were waiting for this to actually happen. And please leave a comment in the comment section below. Please try and keep it clean and polite. I do have a Facebook page for 4-Colour Reactions, my blog, and I'm hoping to put up a Facebook page for 4-Colour Alchemy as well, where I will be posting links and relevant information to the reviews that I do during the show. So once again, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you much sooner than the last time I said that.